go. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Edwin Rutch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and this is our Empathy Cafe for Extinction Rebellion. This is a sort of an orientation to the Empathy Circle Facilitation
Lost
Training.
your sound, Edwin.
Oh, is anybody else?
I can hear you.
Okay. Do you hear me, Michelle?
I can hear you, Edwin.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do is, let me give an overview of what we're going to be doing today. Let's see, share screen. So we're going to start with a little bit of a welcome, which I'm doing right now. We're going to go around, have some participant instructions. I'll give just a short intro to the training, an overview of it, and do some questions and answers. We'll have a little intro to how to Empathy Circle. If there's people who are not familiar with it, if everyone's familiar with the process, we'll skip that. And then we'll go into an Empathy Circle and then have it like last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we'll have a full group debrief. So I guess we can get started with just personal introductions, your name, your location, and where you're and why you're interested in the Empathy Circle Facilitation Training. And if you've taken it before, maybe some of the benefits you see of it. So I'll model that, Edwin Rutch from the San Francisco Bay Area. And I find the Empathy Circle training is the kind of the most effective first step or gateway practice for building empathy skills. It's sort of the least amount of work for the maximum amount of benefit and then it also acts as a gateway to a lot of other practices. So there is a video that it has the benefits of the practice. So that's a good thing to review too, if you want to go deeper into that. So Dean, would you go next?
Hi, I'm Dean from the United Kingdom. I'm in the Southwest, Plymouth. I find that the empathic listening taught me the skill of actually hearing people, and the facilitation training enabled that skill set to grow and empowered me to then enlighten others and to open up others to the tool that is actually empathic listening. And the training itself is an ongoing thing. It's a very simple process to learn, but it's a lifetime to master.
You want to just go around and call on people? Well, I'm going to make these breakout rooms for.
So I'll call on Michelle. Can you hear us, Michelle?
I can. Yes, thank you. I am Michelle. I'm in Eugene, Oregon, and I am here because, well, I've done this before, but lots kind of came up on my plate. So I'm back again to really kind of redo what I did to kind of get more embedded into this sieve of a brain here. And I just really think, I saw an Empathy Circle about 1.5 years ago. And before that, I was like, whatever, whatever. And then I saw this 2-hour Empathy Circle and I was like, wow, okay, I can get into this. And it just, like Dean was saying, it just really opened me up to what listening really is and what hearing other people, really truly hearing what they're saying. So I want to hone those skills a little bit more. So that's why I'm here, and I will check to, gosh, there's so many wonderful faces here.
Let's go with select people just for efficiency. We're just going to go through right down the list instead of selecting. So go ahead, Dean.
Call on Joel, please.
Hey everybody, I'm Joelle. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I think I came upon this Empathy Circle stuff in my own personal journey of some trauma healing, and I'm interested in it in so many different levels because my interest in interpersonal neurobiology that says that being empathetic actually changes our brains. And so I'm super excited about just the kind of healing on so many levels that this brings us to myself. And then it's such a beautiful thing because as I heal myself, I'm also actively healing other people as our brains change. So excited to be here.
We can't hear you, Dean.
Dean, you there?
Dean's muted. Calling on other people when he's saying they're muted. We need to learn to look as well as listen. Kathy.
Kathy, I am from Pacifica, California, and I'm formerly a financial advisor. So my whole career was empathizing with people's situation, right? And trying to help them through active listening and bringing out, because money is a difficult subject for all of us to talk about, right? So I learned a lot of skills with that, but now I've retired and now I'm working for a nonprofit. And I want to use these skills in team building for the nonprofit here in Pacifica. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to get other ways of thinking about empathy in a whole different context.
I'll call upon Sarah now.
Okay, hi, I'm Sarah from Cornwall at the moment, and I'm retired and I'm involved in XR and my grandchildren and the land, growing things. And I used to be a psychotherapist, so empathy is a good territory to me. That's a vital territory, and we all need to practice it. So I guess that's why I'm here. And I've been considering the training. I'm still not decided because it seems like quite a big commitment. Yeah.
I'll call upon Paul.
Thanks, Dean. Hi, everybody. I'm Paul from St Albans in the UK. I've known Edwin for a couple of years. I think we got involved when we first launched the XR Future Democracy Hub, and I'm still involved with democracy in XR, and also I'm a democracy facilitator. So empathy and having hearing people and being able to reflect back to them what I've heard is a fundamental core skill in everything democratic, all democratic processes. So yeah, keen to get more practice. That's me.
Thank you, Paul. I'll call upon Graham, please.
Hello, my name is Graham and I'm from Windsor, Ontario, which is near Detroit from the States and a bit west of Toronto. I'm thinking about what Edwin says, where this empathy circle and the listening process is, for a small effort, you get a huge gain. And that's kind of what I'm experiencing at the moment. I also came from the NVC world. And I'm sorry I'm distracted here. My landlord is mowing the grass. I hope you can't hear it. But anyway, I came from NVC, and I have a difficulty with the vocabulary of feelings and needs. And so I was striving out to find empathy buddies so that I could practice my feelings and needs. And I came across the Empathy Circle, and I realized that with listening and listening empathically, you don't really need all of the words and feelings, and you can still make enormous gains. And so I think this is enormously beneficial, and it's helping me develop my self-confidence and self-worth and all those things. And that, for me, is very powerful. It means also, I think somebody else said something like, you can contribute more to others because of that. And that's how I feel. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham. I'll call upon Laura.
Is that me?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, I've come along because I'm considering doing the training, and I've been drawn to the training because I want to get involved again with XR after an absence, and I'm considering all kinds of manner of counselling, training, co-counselling, anything that will equip me to support people who are involved in either direct action or, you know, some kind of action for the climate. So I'm just driven to become someone who can serve in that kind of way. That's me.
Thank you, Laura. Anne, are you with us, or are you reading something? Sorry, I'll Anne? Still muted.
I had to drop out and come back in because of my connection, and I'd like to know, is it okay now?
Yeah, very good.
Okay, good. And I assume are we doing why? What's the check-in question, please, Steve?
Just checking into who we are and why we think we should undertake the building of the culture of empathy, and why we're doing the training.
Okay, so I'm Anne Jordan. I'm in the southwest of England, in Minehead, and I'm part of the Empathy Circle working group with Edwin and others. And I've made a decision that it's really important, this work, and I'm passionate about it. So I'm here as one of the training team. And back to you, Dean.
I'll call on Larry.
I am Larry. I'm on the Florida East Coast, and I guess I came through this first with A Course in Miracles, then in VC, and then I discovered Edwin's work, and I'm just amazed at how the empathy circles, you know, like Graham was reflecting, gives the most bang for the buck, so to speak. And I've come to the realization that empathy is the missing link in human communication, and is probably the source of, you know, so much misunderstanding, so much conflict throughout human history, leading to wars, because we're not really empathically understanding one another. And if you're familiar with A Course in Miracles, you know the expression, projection makes perception. And I'll stop there, but I'm really happy to be a part of this group and to practice empathy in circles and everywhere, recognizing the value not only for each one of us, but for everyone, being one, so to speak. Thank you.
Larry, I'll call upon Monika.
That's me. Hi. Yeah, I'm Monika. I live in Germany, and I'm in focusing and thinking at the edge method. And we already have a so-called change group in my city. And focusing is a lot about listening to yourself and support each other to listen to yourself. And I thought this sounds interesting. Additionally, or to broaden my, yeah, I don't know, it's a universe to discover, you know, how you listen to yourself and to others, and open to learn more and other ways of doing it. Because it's healthy. We need it for health, our health.
Your audio's not working. At least I'm not hearing you, Dean. Something's going.
Something's going on with my audio now.
There you
so
go.
It might not answer. Julia, I'm calling upon you.
Well, yeah, I've got, as I said, I'm in North Wales in the UK, and what's got me interested is, first of all, company, because I live alone in a very hostile village, and before lockdown I had no real company other than friends further away, and then I got onto Zoom calls and did lots of trainings, lots of singing, lots of dancing, all from the comfort of my living room. And then there was the empathy circles that I joined from Australia. I did a listening training, but I'm no good at it. I'm really useless. I think because I got PTSD from all the aggression around me, I just can't concentrate. And there are certain people I concentrate less on. I don't know what it is, but big words, and I mean, I'm educated, but some words just get to me. I'm not really familiar with them, and I'm also not familiar with a lot of acronyms. So bear with me. It's really a bad time of year for me because I want to be in the garden. I'm disabled, very, very ill. I've had cellulitis in my legs, so I can't get around much, and it takes me a long time to get things done around the home. So yeah, I'm not sure whether I should be doing the training now or whether I should wait till winter when I won't be out as much. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Forgive me if I'm always late and things, but not today.
Edwin.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So I wanted to just give what the purpose here is we have these Empathy Circle Facilitator trainings that we have 4 cohorts during the week that we're going to be doing. And this one is specifically geared for XR, Extinction Rebellion. So, but you can take part in any training, and you don't have to be part of Extinction Rebellion, but we're sort of trying to optimize it for Extinction Rebellion, the one. And let me just give a quick intro to the training. Sorry for the people who have seen this multiple times. Please bear with us. So this is the website. I'll put the link in there. I forgot to put the link in, but I'll put that in later. So if you go to the Empathy Circle Facilitator Training website, you'll see this is the site. Our intention is to build a culture of empathy. So it's the deeper vision of the training is to just raise the level of empathy in society, really believe that will contribute to greater well-being. And the training here this is module 1, consists of 5 sessions, 2.5 hours a week, and we meet every week. We're creating this as an open source training, so we hope that we're kind of co-designing it and co-developing it to make it something that's publicly available, so you can use the training, build on it, and that we can just really spread this practice. The real goal is to, spread this as practice as widely as possible as a sort of foundational practice. And it says here, the mutual benefit and well-being of humanity and the planet. There's no cost to take part. You can donate. The trainers are all donating their time generously for the purpose of building a more empathic society. If we go down, there's some references here. There's a start page. If you click through to that, that'll take you to our Facebook event page. It has various schedules for upcoming intro cafes, which is what this is. The only prerequisite to take the training is that you've done 2 empathy circles. We just want you to, before you do the training, to have had the experience of being in an empathy circle as a participant, and taking part today, fills one of those requirements. The time commitment is 2.5 hours a week. We have we call an empathy buddy call. So between each session, you meet for half an hour with someone in the cohort to take part in just a mutual empathic listening. We're trying to build community and connections and a network of supporters. And we do have a really great network. We just did last week, we did an XR, there was the XR UK had as a strategy assembly. And they invited us to host an empathy cafe, sort of as a debrief. We put out just a short call. We had like 12 or 13, I think, facilitators willing to help with facilitate empathy circles there. So we have a really great community that's really willing to help and help each other in hosting empathy cafes. So that's a half an hour at least a week. And then we ask that you try to hold an empathy circle during the week if you can, and that's another hour and a half maybe. or 2 hours. If you can't, that's fine. Or you can just do a one-on-one empathic listening call. So find someone in your family or a friend and say, hey, I'm willing to listen to you for a whole hour, just doing empathic listening. So that's another option that you have. The training path, if you can click through each of these and kind of go into more depth, I just want to kind of breeze through this to give you an overview. The training path is you take the training for 5 sessions, but then you, as a participant, you can take it a second, the third time as a participant, and then you can also become a trainee of it. So we have, you know, Graham and Larry and Dean and Ann started as participants. Now they're moving into the trainee role, and then Ann and Dean have moved into the trainer role. So it's you can take the training multiple times and, you know, move through the path to become a trainer of the practice. And we're here to kind of help you to set up your own cohort. So if you want to become a trainer, you can, you know, start training your own community, your own XR chapters, you know, just bring the practice into your local groups and, you know, train, and we're here to support you to do that. These are the 4 cohorts we have at the moment. We have one on Wednesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And you can click through, there's Facebook and LinkedIn events for those. And it would be very helpful if you go into there, you can invite your friends, you know, just to those events. There's we have a Wednesday. This is one that's more geared towards US West Coast and Australia to India, you know, Asia time zones. We have one on Saturdays, which is sort of optimized a bit for a group called Pandemic Professors. They're college students who are doing mentoring for high school students. And so we're working with them, but it's open, that cohort is open. And then this cohort that we're looking to form now on Mondays in this time slot. So as soon as we get 22 people for this cohort, I think we need another 10 or 12 or something for this cohort, then we would get started. So we're hoping that all of you will take part. And then you can go through, see the different modules. These are some previous cohorts. We try to get about 21 people per cohort before we start. And you can see the different sessions. You can see a little outline of what's involved. And then there's a whole bunch of sort of reference material for the, you know, for the training here, and then tons of material on about empathy and the importance of empathy. So I've been working about 14 years on the topic of empathy. If you go to cultureofempathy.com, you can see like hundreds of interviews, and it's like the largest resource for empathy related material. So that's just gonna breeze through that because I don't want to spend too much time on it. You can check I'll put the link in. You can check the website and review it all. So I'll just open it up for any questions you have about the training, any before we go into actually doing an empathy circle. Oh, yeah, Sarah.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, Sarah.
It's just occurred to me, because this is my 3rd introductory kind of evening now that I've attended. We don't seem to have any preamble about confidentiality, which might seem perhaps irrelevant given we're so scattered around the globe. But I don't know, is that somewhere in the training, or is that somewhere, maybe you have a different way of thinking about it. I'm not, you know, it's not like sort of a holy catechism as thou shalt observe holy confidentiality, but it's just that it is an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, if for confidentiality, this is recorded, so it's very publicly oriented. We're not doing like therapy, like, oh, I got my, you know, personal secrets, I'm gonna and you know, and I want to really, you know, I want to have my personal support group for that. I mean, that's an important part, but this is what we're trying to do is be more open and transparent. And so you have to just, you know, kind of watch what you say if there's something, you know, how public you want to be. Not every circle is recorded. So like today, the circle I'm in will be recorded, and there'll be 3 empathy circles, and the others will not be recorded. So But I would say in terms of a culture of empathy, we're trying to build a culture of empathy, and there's some principles that a culture of empathy is based on, or values. The one first is empathy. The second is mutuality, that we want mutual empathy, not just I empathize and everybody else can kind of be a narcissist or whatever. It's like, we want mutual empathy, folks. We're going to both listen to each other. It's very democratic. The third is openness. It's like empathy thrives in openness and transparency. So we want to have as open as a transparent as a culture as possible. And then the other fourth, I would say, is care. Care meaning that we want the well-being. We want your well-being. Be considerate of each other's well-being. So yeah, so you can, if you have more thoughts about the confidentiality, you can bring it up in the empathy circle and discuss it there too. So
no, I thank you. That that sort of commitment to openness is interesting, and it's quite like some of the things that we do in XR as well. So yeah, I think it's quite good. You take responsibility for your own privacy, don't you then, Riley?
exactly, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's okay. That's fine. I have more questions, but I'll think of them
Okay,
gradually.
great. Excellent. Anyone else? Just make a. Okay. Oh, we have Rick. Do you want to just do quick your name and location and why you're interested in the training? Rick, everybody else had introduced themselves.
Yeah, name is Rick Ellis, E-L-S, and I'm in Seattle. And much of what you're talking about is values in my own church community, which are Quakers. And I have a long-term interest in Frans de Waal and all of his work on empathy. So I'm really curious how to make use of those ideas among people I know.
Oh, great. Yeah, I have interviewed Frans de Waal about empathy. I've interviewed all those books back there are all books on empathy. And I don't know, I've interviewed probably about 300 of the world experts. A lot of them don't know how to do empathic listening. They know the concepts of empathy, but that's a whole nother issue to talk about. So there's a little bit of difference between empathy and academic understanding. So yeah.
That's kind of an intriguing topic to me because, you know, you get people who have a very well-developed and knowledgeable understanding of a topic, and then someone who doesn't have that, and it's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have we're going to get into their circles as soon as possible. So does anyone need an intro to how to take part in an empathy circle? Do you feel already comfortable, or do you want the primer on that? We have one person, two. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just show this short, it's a 6-minute how-to video, gives sort of an overview of how to take part in an empathy circle. And let me just share that. And here we go. I'm Edwin Rutch, founding director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. I'd like to welcome you to this short presentation on how to take part in a basic empathy circle. So next, let's look at the step-by-step how to take part. An empathy circle starts with 2 to 7 participants. Here on the screen, we have 4 participants, which I find is an ideal number. There are 4 basic roles, and the roles rotate among the participants as the empathy circle unfolds. 1, the speaker, is the first person to speak. 2 is active listener who actively listens to the speaker. There's the silent listeners, they quietly observe and witness. And the facilitator who organizes, schedules, and hosts the circle. They also do the timekeeping, and they have some experience with the process and help keep participants in the process. However, everyone has the responsibility to hold the process and the practice. So to begin with, the facilitator will start the empathy circle. They welcome the participants. They lead introductions if the participants don't know each other. The facilitator invites participants to give short introductions, for example, their name, where they're from, and something personal about themselves. The facilitator then reviews the empathy circle process to remind everyone how it works. They announce the discussion topic, if there is one. Even if there is a topic, you can always talk about what is alive for you. That is what is on your mind in the moment. And 5, they set the speaker time limits, perhaps 5 minutes, for example. And the facilitator then asks who would like to start to be the first speaker. So at that point, the participant volunteers to be the first speaker. As speaker, you select who will be your active listener, and you can select anyone that you want. You speak about the topic given or whatever is alive for you, and so you'll speak a bit until you have maybe expressed an idea or two, and then you want to pause to give the active listener a chance to recap what they understand that you are saying and feeling. If you say too much, the listener may have difficulty in reflecting it. As the active listener, you are listening to the speaker to get an understanding of what they're saying and what is important to them. You are giving them your full attention as a supportive companion on their inner journey and exploration. When the speaker pauses, you recap your understanding of what they said and how they feel by reflecting the essence of that in your own words. You can summarize, paraphrase, or even say the speaker's words back to them. Even though you may have a strong impulse to respond with your own ideas, judgments, analysis, advice, and sympathy, or even questions, resist the impulse to do so. Because these common responses block the speaker from moving along their internal journey. You'll be able to say whatever you want when it is your turn to be the speaker. If you don't reflect the understanding to the speaker's satisfaction, they can always say it again. Then as speaker, you check, do you feel understood to your satisfaction? If you do not feel understood, you can say it again, perhaps in different words. If you do feel understood, continue sharing. Again, after speaking a bit, pause to give your active listener a chance to recap their understanding of what you said. As the active listener, you again share your understanding of what the speaker said and meant. The cycle of speaking and reflecting continues until you, as the speaker, do not have anything else you'd like to say, or until you get a signal from the timekeeper. If you get a signal from the timekeeper, then finish up what you're saying in a sentence or two. After you get a final reflection, you can end your turn by saying something like, "I feel fully heard," or something like that to indicate you are done with your speaking turn. At that point, the roles then rotate. The active listener becomes the speaker. The person they select becomes the new active listener. For everyone having equal time, it is good to select someone that hasn't spoken lately, but it is your choice. The others in the circle become the silent listeners. This process of taking turns in speaking and active listening continues for whatever time is allotted for the empathy circle. And this was just a very short introduction. The best way to learn the practice is taking part and doing it. There is more in-depth material on taking part in an empathy circle and facilitating one at empathycircle.com. Thank you for listening. Okay, and as it says, the easiest way is just to observe. We'll just go into the empathy circle and you just kind of can observe how it works. And let me find my notes here for so our topic, I'm going to post that, is going to be, why do you personally feel it is important to spread the empathy circle practice? in Extinction Rebellion or whatever's alive for you. So you can always talk about anything on your mind. And then there's a link there. We're working on a document to build the case for why the Empathy Circle is important in XR. And there's a link there, and you can take notes if you would like. On page 3 is sort of the note section for this session. And I think we're ready. We'll have one room with Dean facilitating, and we'll stay here. Room 2 is with Anne, with Graham, as backup. And then room 3 is Larry facilitating. And I think we're ready to go into the rooms. Is that okay, Larry? You good with that?
Paul's got
Edwin, that link didn't seem to work for me for some reason.
Oh.
Did anybody else check that?
It's oh, you're right. Oh, thanks for catching that. Oh, I left out the W at the end. Great. Yeah, so we're working on that document. You can also afterwards add more to that document, just so we want to create an article on this. There it goes. Did that work for you, Paul?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So here we go into the rooms. Oh, we're going to go for an hour and about 10 minutes, then come back. There we go. Okay, Dean.
So I'd just like to notify everyone we are still recording in this room. Does anyone have any issues with the recording? Monika, you look slightly undecided there. Come on.
No, I'm reading this link. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I do apologize. So there's 5 of us in the room. I think 4 minutes for each speaker will be the allotted time today. And towards the end of the 4 minutes of your turn as being the active speaker, you'll hear 3 bleeps. And if you round up what you're saying after the 3 bleeps, that's fine. If you carry on because you're engrossed, which is very often what happens in the Empathy Circle, I'll wait until I can see you looking at the screen, and I'll hold up this little lovely sign that indicates like, please draw your current sentence to a conclusion, and then wait for the reflection, and then we'll move on to the next person. Is that clear? So I'd like one of you 3 ladies to start talking, or I can choose one of you 3 if no one wants to be the first speaker, and then I will be the active listener, and I will reflect what you have to say without putting any questions into it or projecting my own conclusions upon it. So who would like to go first? Monika's definitely shaking her head. Kathy's rocking. Joel, come on then. You're at the bottom of my screen, so I'm going to pick on you. With love and rage.
Okay. So I'm speaking first, right?
Yep, I'm going to put the timer on now. 4 minutes.
Great. So, I'm thinking not only in terms of Extinction Rebellion, and here in Portland, Oregon, but also some of the equity and anti-racist work and passion that's going on here. And one thing that's really striking me right now is that I was watching conversations that were so intensely like aggressive and hurtful. And I'll pause now.
Okay, so I'm hearing you mention the fact that it's not only relevant to XR, but it's relevant to a lot of the language that's going on with regarding to racism and other polarizing topics in the United States.
Yeah, and that there is I think this sense of urgency that so many of us are feeling in both of these communities, and I think these communities are interwoven too, that the urgency can lead people to feel like they have to do something so quickly that it sort of leaves empathy and connection behind.
So I'm hearing you talk about the urgency that some people feel that actually becomes too strong, so they forget empathy.
Yeah. And what I've noticed in practicing the empathy circle is even just in noticing my mental emotional processes, that in the empathy circle, both when I'm being heard and also when I am listening to other people, is that there must be some sort of biological factor that happens where more comes out of that interaction than the other more aggressive, destructive conversations. It's almost like in the slowing and listening and being empathetic, there's just so much more alive that can move us forward.
Okay, so I'm hearing you talk about this duality between the mind and the soul, and about the fact that with the urgency there becomes too much. So therefore, actually, with the empathic circling process, the quietness and stillness that you have to observe when you're actually listening to someone allows a deeper connection.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, there's this almost this like duality, or like you said, duality or irony of this urgency to make things better, and yet the ability to pause and be empathetic is the most productive thing to do. So it's this, I feel that sort of tension in myself as I work through some of this.
So I'm hearing you speak towards that tension that can be prevalent when there's this urgency, but actually by relaxing, you can actually feel more rather than just the passion.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I feel fully heard. Thank you, Dean.
You've done this before, haven't you?
Huh?
11 seconds left.
Oh, did I nail it?
Left.
Oh, wow.
You nailed it.
Oh, wow.
So I'll now speak to Kathy. And then if you could reflect for me. I won't take the full 4 minutes because I've done this a few times, and I think it's more important for other people to have the chance to speak. But I probably will, actually, because I have a tendency to rant. So I'll stop ranting and I'll start the timer. I feel trauma at this psychosis of desperation and this disconnection from the emotion that this desperation can create. Pause.
What do you mean by desperation, please?
So, sorry if it's an anglicised word. Desperation, urgent energy to get something done quickly. So it's with desperation. They're desperately trying to do something. They're pushing ahead too fast.
I hear you saying that you are feeling motivated to rush into things and proceed faster than you should. Is that what I hear you saying?
No, but I understand why you're saying that. What I'm saying is that this urgency that some people feel creates a desperation whereby instead of being still enough to understand each other, they personalize it themselves and project themselves into the situation rather than hearing empathically what the other person needs. I'll pause.
Okay, I understand you're saying that they rush into their own thoughts and can't therefore hear the other person because it's blocked by their own thoughts. And that's kind of what people do when they interrupt other people that are trying to express themselves.
Yeah, this is where passion can become toxic, because if we let passion overwhelm us, then we can get carried away without actually thinking about what we're doing. We become overwhelmed rather than cognizant of what we're actually doing.
Okay. I hear you saying you're not cognizant of what's happening because you're so, you find the urgency of what's happening instead of relaxing and taking it in and listening. Is that correct?
I didn't actually say we, but the I and the we are replaceable in these things, because with passion comes this predilection to enact something without thinking it through or feeling it through.
Okay.
Oops. Can you reflect that, Kathy?
I think you don't think through what you're saying because you're so wrapped up in your own feelings around it.
Yeah, the point was that the I and the we are interchangeable, because while I was talking for the third person, the first person is of course involved in the third person. Sorry, that was me saying thank you very much. I feel fully heard.
Oh.
It's your turn to speak now. So I was just clarifying.
Okay. I don't know what to speak about. I have never done this before, so I'm really not.
Well,
sure.
We're talking about how this process can be used, and why this process is important to XR. But it's also in the circle we can talk about what's current, or what emotions you are feeling at the moment, and you'd like to have someone reflect for you.
So first step is just to select who you want to speak to. Just
I really don't have anything to speak about. I don't quite understand it yet.
okay. Do you want to speak to me, and I'll be your listener.
Okay.
So I hear you're not really sure what to speak about. You'd like to just pass, basically, because you're not sure what to speak about. So you're not familiar with the process.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And am I supposed to be speaking about my feelings about relating to other people? Is that what I'm trying to get at?
Right. I hear you're kind of like wondering what you're supposed to be talking about. You're wondering, should I be talking about my feelings relating to people, or you're just kind of wanting some clarity about what the topic is? And I'll just add that you can talk about anything that you would like. Yeah.
But I have to have feelings about it, right?
No, you can just, yeah, you can talk about anything that's alive for you, just anything. It's up to you.
Okay, so let me just say this. I'm with the Beach Coalition, and we try to help the beaches and, plant native plants and get the plastics from the ocean and such. So that's my thing. And I've run into so many homeless people. They are living in vans and things because they are unemployed and they can't get a job, and I feel a lot of empathy for them. I try to help them without becoming codependent in any way, and that's a big concern for me. How's that? Is that a good topic?
Yeah. So I hear that you have a real concern about the homeless, that you do this work cleaning up the beaches, you're with the group there, and you run into a lot of homeless there, and you really try to do what you can to help them without becoming codependent with them.
You're good, Edwin.
So you're really
that was
feeling
a very good
at the reflection. You feel it's a good reflection of what you're saying.
Yes, very good, very good. So what do I say now that was a good reflection? Is that how it goes? I tell you, you did a great job. You heard me. I mean, I feel fully heard. How's that?
Okay, you feel fully heard. That means you're complete. Then it's my turn, and I'll speak to Monika.
Okay.
It'll come around again. So Monika, if you listen.
Yeah, I listen. I'm listening.
I really, what Joelle was saying about the hurtful discussions. I really see that going on with this with the current talk about racism and etc. I just see a lot of those really difficult. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, you really see that kind of discussions going on.
Yeah, it's around the racism topics, you know, the current Black Lives Matter kind of topics, the policing, you know, the political kind of issues. There seems to be a lot of pain around that, especially the way the conversations are going.
Yeah, it's about the way the conversations are going, like in racism, Black Lives Matters, so on. It's about the way.
Yeah, the approach is very judgmental. There's a lot of judgment and, you know, sort of intimidation, and yeah, it causes a lot of pain and anguish, it seems to me.
You feel it there's a lot of judgment, and that causes pain.
So what I was thinking, I'm wanting to do a series of empathy cafes, and it's going to be empathizing with series. So it's going to be empathizing with racism, empathizing with empathizing with hate, empathizing with just whatever all the negative words are out there, empathizing with anti-racism and empathizing with anti-hate. So it's going to be empathizing with everything. Take all the words that are all these trigger words, and it'll be a different empathizing with for every circle.
So you have this idea to create empathy coffees or circles about words, like kind of negative words, hate, racism, any kind of words, to practice empathy or to relate empathy with that, empathy and hate, empathy and racism.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we have this empathy tent we set up, you know, I'm here in Berkeley. The political right would come to Berkeley and they would be advocating for free speech, and the political left comes out and they say, you're all haters, you're all racist or whatever, and we're gonna shut you down. And then they have these big street fights. So, and then we would take the empathy tent, set it there in the middle and say, hey, we're willing to listen to both of you. And by the way, come into the empathy tent and have an empathic dialogue. So just want to share that.
Yeah, that's kind of a action you have in mind. There's this empathy tent. And what if it happened that there's a political meeting and people from the right and the left come and start to, I don't know, argue with each other, and you would put the tent in the middle and say, I'm here and I'm willing to listen or open to listen to both of you.
Exactly. But we've already done it.
Okay.
We have done a whole bunch of it. We've done it a lot. So
yeah. It's an experience. You've done it.
Yeah, before COVID. So the whole point is take an empathic attitude. Instead of being against something, you're listening to it. So I'm empathizing with people who are against hate, as well as empathizing with people who advocate for hate. So it's an empathic approach. And I think the empathy circle sort of models that. So what we're doing here sort of models that. So it's a different sort of mindset.
Yeah, that's the different mindset that matters to you. Like it's having empathy with, not being against or for something, but having empathy with whatever is there.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now it's me. Okay, I'd like to listen by Joel, if you want to listen.
All right, I'd love to.
Okay. Yeah, so okay, start with an irritation, because I didn't know the word Extinction Rebellion.
So you're starting with a feeling of irritation because you didn't know what Extinction Rebellion is, and that can be, yeah, hard.
Yeah, that's my beginning, right? So I checked it, and
So now I think it's a movement I have a German page here, to peaceful ungehorsam, peacefully be not obedient, maybe kind of, to be peacefully not obedient. Yeah.
So you were able to look it up and understand while you were translating and working in German and English, that it's a way of being peacefully rebellious.
Yeah. So what comes up for me here? There stays an irritation. So because on the one hand, there is something interesting in it to connect it with something that is a rebellion, you know, that this empowers people or engage people to speak up and not to be obedient. So that's the one side. And on the other hand, it's like this ability, or this, let's say ability for the moment to listen to yourself and listen what comes up from there, whether it is following the mainstream or the normal or the structures or not, is natural.
So you're still feeling this irritation about this idea, and that the rebellion is interesting and feels interesting and empowering, and yet the other side of following along is also I can't remember the words you used, a natural or normal.
Yeah, this capacity or allowing or environment or self-care or ability to listen to yourself, and what comes up from here, what is natural kind of, and then kind of I listen, and then it is another level or surrounding kind of, if it is according to the existing rules or whatever, or it is not, but it's just like going beyond the patterns, though that's a natural thing. That's a little paradox here for me. But then, of course, I would totally agree that this natural capacity is not culturalized, to listen to what's important for yourself first. Like, to go beyond these existing patterns, you then maybe have to be extinct rebellion against or for or whatever or with. So yeah.
So it sounds like you're thinking about that inherent paradox of listening to yourself, and that there's sometimes different parts of that where we're being obedient because that's naturally what comes up, or we're being ourselves and true to ourselves in a way that isn't necessarily about obedience.
Yeah. So rebellion is needed where obedience is or not, kind of. There's a longing for a world where it's not about obedience or rebellion, but about, of course, it's normal, you listen to yourself and that comes up and you need this. And it's maybe not, yeah.
Oh, so it sounds like, should I go ahead and reflect to her one more time? It sounds like you're talking that it doesn't necessarily have to be this divided thing of obedience or listening to yourself, that there could be something just that truly comes out of listening to oneself.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see. Edwin.
Listening.
All right. Well, what's alive right now is just still thinking about listening to Monika, and I'm feeling a little bit of concern about whether she felt fully heard, because I think when speaking to somebody that's speaking and processing in two languages, I hope that I'm reflecting in a way that feels validating to her, because there's two languages and different vocabulary things going on.
Yeah, so you're still thinking about your reflections, listening to Monika, and hoping you were doing an adequate job of reflection. And you're seeing there's a complication when you're working in two languages that might add some level of complication to it. You have some concern that you want to do a good job of reflection.
Right. And just because I've lived in other countries for short amounts of time, but trying to communicate when your brain is processing two languages is like this whole other level of it's challenging. It's another piece, not necessarily a barrier, but just another thing to be aware of in communication.
So when you're working in two languages, there's another level of complication that is good to be aware of.
And I think that also makes me wonder what, because I have not yet done an empathy circle in person with people. I mean, I've one-on-one stuff a little bit, but I just wondering or looking forward to what it'll be like to be in person in an empathy circle, because I'm pretty sensitive, and I think that there's a lot that you can pick up in people's affect and just kind of what's going on with their vibe that you can't pick up as well on a screen.
So you have some curiosity about what it's like to do an empathy circle in person, because you're sensitive to the vibrations, and you would imagine, it sounds like you're imagining you'd pick up a lot of the different energies that are going on there, and have some curiosity about that.
Right, exactly. But then it makes me think too, on the other hand, that it could be a lot, so that like you're getting a lot of information, but you could almost get sort of not overwhelmed, but like you're picking up on so much that's going on when we're live together, people's emotions and what's going on there.
So you're sort of imagining it could be just a lot of different energies, a lot of stuff going on. It might be a little bit overwhelming. Maybe some concern about being overwhelmed by all the emotions and feelings that are coming up in the space.
Right, exactly. I think I feel fully heard. I think I'm just in sort of a thinking, feeling type of process, and I'm feeling done. Thank you.
Okay, you feel complete and you feel heard. So
thank you.
It's my turn. I'll speak to Kathy then. So in terms of doing empathy circles in person, I've done it with my extended family. We've done a lot of empathy circles, so it can be a interesting experience.
So I hear you saying that you have experience working with extended family members to do empathy work.
And one of the circles we held was just talking about our childhood memories. And we went for 4.5 hours in the circle doing this, with 7 of us.
I hear you have a large extended family, and so it took 4.5 hours to fully do the circle with all those members.
It's not because it's a large extended family, it's just that we were just sort of exploring. It was only like 7 of us, or 6 or 7. And we're just talking about childhood memories, and I had some real interesting insights about energies that Joelle is talking about. So I might go into that.
I hear you talking about childhood memories with your extended family and all the memories that came up about your life together when you were younger.
Yeah, my brother is like super introverted. It's like hard to get anything out of him. And so the empathy circle is good because you speak to him and he has to reflect. So it's really good for introverts because they have to listen and then they have to reflect what you say. And it was sort of like priming the pump. You know, when you prime a pump, you have to put a little water in there to get it started. But once it gets going, then it starts flowing. And it kind of worked that way with him.
So I hear you talking about your brother who is an introvert and how you would get him talking because he had to be a mirror to reflect. And once you got him talking, he actually was able to expound a lot more than he would normally.
And he was actually very funny. He was kind of funny, humorous in his sharing.
And your brother, you say, was funny and humorous in his sharing also.
And then the other thing is, so we were talking about, a kind of interesting, childhood memories, and it was kind of fun. So you could sort of feel the fun energy. But into the third hour, it was almost like the energy would bubble up and it would be a conflict, like, conflicts in the family between two family members, like between my partner, Joan, and my sister-in-law, a conflict would sort of bubble up into awareness and they'd start working out their issues.
Okay, so I hear you talking about after about the third hour, there was a conflict would bubble up between participants and they would start discussing their conflicts, whatever they might be.
Yeah, and then there was a conflict, between my sister and myself. It's like, she said, "Oh, you push too much. You're always pushing me to do this empathy work." And so it was for her, she feels I'm too pushy. So that was like another conflict that sort of bubbled up. And yeah.
Yeah, so I hear you saying that your sister also felt that you were being pushy and getting everyone to do this, and that, she may not have been as happy about the situation as you were hoping. And the conflict between you and her also took place.
And then a little while later, we kind of talked about that a little bit because I had a conflict with her because she always withdraws. And I get irritated with that. Instead of sort of staying present and just, talking about things, she withdraws. So I have a problem with that. So that was like another conflict kind of issue. So, yeah.
So then I hear you saying your sister is a personality that would withdraw, and that in trying to mirror with her, it was difficult because of her withdrawing, and that created a little conflict for you to work out with her.
It wasn't right then that she withdrew, but in general, in the relationship, in our relationship, always some issue comes up, instead of sort of facing it, she just leaves, so.
So it wasn't actually her doing it at the time, but it is an issue because she tends to do that at other times, to withdraw, and instead of confronting whatever the issue might be.
Yeah, so that's sort of the energy level, I think, that Joelle brought up, was you just feel all these different energies in the room, right? These dynamics. So it is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so you brought up that the energy in the room that Joelle had discussed is an important factor. And when we get to meet again, that will be something we'll experience.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you. And you're up again. You choose who you want to.
I'm up.
To. Yeah.
Okay. I will choose Monika to listen to me.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so I just want to say that I was talking about these people living in their vans, and there's one man there that I'm concerned about because he's killing himself and he's living in his car, and he hasn't eaten in about 10 days. and there's nothing that we can do about it. And it's very upsetting.
So you shared about a man you know from that work you're doing. He's living in a van and he's killing himself, you say, and you're really concerned about
Yes.
his situation.
Yes, he he just wants to kill himself, so he hasn't had anything to eat. He just drinks beer, and he's we've called the police a few times, and they won't do anything if he will not go and get help.
Yeah, so he drinks a lot of beer. And you and you try to call the police, but they will not do anything, so it's up to him to ask for help.
Yes, and he refuses help, and so I do what I can, but we see what's going on there for weeks.
So he refuses help, and you do what you can, but you're kind of observing or waiting, or I feel you're worried about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of he needs help, and it's he who has to ask for help, and he refuses help, and you do what you can.
Yeah, several people in the community have called, medical and the police, but he refuses to leave his car. So there's nothing we can do.
So several people have done something and called doctors or police, but it's difficult to do something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel fully heard.
Yeah.
Do I pick somebody else? Oh, you don't have to.
I think I have to pick someone else again. Yeah. Okay, so I ask Dean. Did I say it right? Dean, yeah.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Monika.
Yeah, okay. What do I speak about? Yeah, I'm touched by that, what I just heard. No, it stays with me. Before I wanted to say I felt fully heard, Jill, so it's not, it's good. I actually love to do it in different languages. I know I miss words, but it's beautiful to do it in different languages because each language opens the door to another universe, right? Like it's different to do it in German than in English, and so my profession is also in the field of second language acquisition. So I'm mostly with people who have the problem in German, kind of, but I know this place of not having enough words, but the fully experiencing of the situation. And but I think it's not a problem. It's not everything depending on words.
So I'm hearing you sitting with the emotion that Catherine expressed, and then I'm hearing you talk to this beauty of language and about sometimes people may find it hard to find the right word, but actually the meaning transcends the language because each language has its own way of saying something similar.
Yeah, and this knowing that the meaning is before the word, right? Even if there's no word, the people is alive, the person is alive. So it's just sometimes a matter of time, or you can even say the word in your language, and yeah. Yeah. So what else?
So I'll just reflect that back. So actually the meaning comes before the word, and sometimes you just have to sit there and then the word will come. And other times you have to express the word in your own language first of all, before you can find the word in the other language. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there are many times to express it or be with that person and the meaning, even though there are no words. So makes me think of a student I once had. So he was so traumatized and he stopped speaking. Yeah, but he came, like he was there, his presence was there, and he reacted to some offers I did. So of course he was there, but he couldn't say a word. Yeah.
I'm hearing you talking about someone that was so traumatized they'd actually lost the use of language, but it didn't matter because they were still there.
Yeah, well, it mattered, but it was kind of his speaking that he was there for a certain time. He couldn't stay a long time, then he get stressed and had to go. But it was like a message that he was there with us in this institute and stayed for a while. And yeah, that was kind of his way to communicate.
So I'm hearing you say the fact that he communicated by being there. Sometimes he would be overwhelmed and have to leave, but that was his way of expressing his emotions without words.
Yeah. 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 No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit with this man, Kathy shared, and this helplessness to just to be there. Sometimes it's so much, to be with someone, even if there is no way to do something, but it's a lot to be with someone. It's just like it's so much just to be with someone.
I'm hearing you talk about trauma triggering from Kathy was saying, reminding you of this other person. But sometimes we don't actually have to say anything. We can just be with someone, and that's the start.
Yeah, that's a lot. Just resonating to that what you shared. Like it's a lot to be with someone. Yeah, I can finish here. Thanks for listening. I feel fully heard.
So,
I'm here.
sometimes we have to just sit in an emotion before we can express it. I'm hearing a lot about people that find it hard to express their emotions. And quite often, we should just be with them and not expect of them to speak.
So you're finding value in pausing for a moment, pausing and feeling and thinking, and you're thinking about that some people, that you're thinking about this, the ability or the just act of sitting with someone who may not be able to articulate, but the value or of that presence and just sitting and being with someone.
Sometimes you can just look at someone in the eye with compassion, and you don't have to say anything, and just that acknowledging them as a human being, even if they're in trauma, just being with them and acknowledging them as an equal is a very powerful thing, not just for yourself, but for the other person.
So you're really you're thinking and talking about the value of looking at somebody in the eye, seeing them and acknowledging them and acknowledging their value as a person, and you're thinking about the impact and sort of realness of that.
Yeah, quite often when I go through my city centre, there's people, destitute people, and I won't give them money or anything. I'll give them my time. Which
I lost you. I'm sorry, I lost you. Your internet blanked out, so I missed a chunk of what you said. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'll start again. So what I said was that sometimes when I walk around my town centre, I find people who are destitute, and I don't give them money. I give them time. I sit down and be with them and let them talk to me and hear them. And I think that's more valuable than money.
I'm hearing you say that when you walk around your city center, there's a lot of people there that are destitute, and you don't give them money, but you sit with them and give them time, and that you feel like that's as valuable or more valuable than giving money.
Well, I see the joy on their face. So the smile, just the smile at someone actually wanting to spend time with them, I think is a more powerful thing than any therapy. Although it is the biggest therapy of all, to make someone smile.
So you're really seeing the evidence of you're seeing and acknowledging, because you see a smile, and you think that that's, you started to say it's better than therapy, but then you sort of then moved into saying maybe that is the therapy.
Yeah, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Yeah. Kathy.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm watching this kind of empathy connection in the group, with kind of what one of the things that you were talking about was the person who's homeless, who's living in his car, and your experience of him slowly dying. And it really resonated with me about the sort of feeling of powerlessness I have with the people that are struggling around me.
Yes, I hear you talking about the subject of people who are, this person I talked about slowly dying, and how destitute people resonate in our hearts due to the empathy we feel.
Yeah. But it's fascinating because I feel like we're talking and it's leading me to this, this awareness that seems to be growing in me, that I don't fully see how much of an impact I have on people by just being with them and connecting with them.
I hear you saying that you're not sure about the connection you have with people just being with them, which leaves you feeling I'm not exactly sure how.
Yeah, well, I think I'm thinking about sort of your experience and of kind of watching this and grieving this experience with this homeless man, and then reflecting on what Dean was saying, in that I think there is more that we are doing, but it's not tangible. It's not money. It's not always fixing it in the way that we think we should fix it. But there's something that's very real, but hard to measure in the way that we see and like have love and compassion for someone else.
Right. So I hear you saying that what we do in trying to understand these people is a real thing, even though it's not money, it's compassion, and that is a contribution in itself.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and this is kind of sciencey, which, but sometimes the science facts kind of help validate what I think I'm sensing. And that the kind of mentor coach that I work with talks about interpersonal neurobiology. You don't have to repeat any of that, but there is something very real and measurable that happens when we sit and see and empathize with somebody. There's like brain activity that happens, even though we can't see it in between us.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, and relating to people and showing our interest and caring. There is something that goes on that's intangible, but we know it's there, and it's important to express it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I've always lived in this world where I think because of my family and my history, the tangible was important, but there was so much of this other stuff that I'm learning to validate that's always been there.
I hear you saying that you've always looked at the tangible, but now you're realizing there's so much intangible also that's even maybe more important.
It's 11:30. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Does that mean it's me? Okay, on with my story. Because everyone loves a story. Anyway, this man was.
Who are you speaking to, Kathy?
I'm speaking to. Okay, I'm speaking to Edwin. So Edwin, I was introduced to this group at the parking lot by this particular man when he was okay, and he hurt himself. And he went to the hospital for 2 months, and he came back in a wheelchair, and it's just gone down since then. And so I had have a real connection with him. I see him most often. I bring my dog for him to pet, and I talk to him. But the compassion doesn't seem to have an effect.
Mm-hmm. So you've known this person for a while. He was actually the person that connected you with the beach cleaning group, and he had some kind of an injury, went to the hospital, and when he's come back, it's been sort of a downhill ever since. And your sense of compassion for him doesn't seem to be helping.
Yeah. So he isn't part of the beach cleaning, but because I was there and saw him when I was doing my duties, I became acquainted with him. And so anyway, it's a little community there, but since he came back, they had taken him off cigarettes, they had taken him off alcohol because he was there for 2 months, right? He came back clean, so to speak, and started all over again, and then stopped eating, and I feel helpless about it.
Yeah, so feeling a real sense of helplessness about what to do. He'd come back clean, but then he's just started again with alcohol and just wasting away.
Yeah, I feel fully heard.
Okay. Speak to Dean then.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so one story that came up for me was, with this empathy tent, we set it up in Berkeley, and I do remember just setting it up and a homeless man coming to the tent, and I just listened to him. And he spoke for a while, and he was talking about, says, nobody sees me here in Berkeley. I feel totally alone. And then he mentioned how it felt good just to be heard there in the tent. So
I'm hearing you set up the tent in Berkeley, and then this homeless man came in and expressed his gratitude about how good it was to be seen.
Yeah, and he also expressed how he didn't feel seen within Berkeley. He's been wandering around there, didn't feel seen. He was also a veteran, had been Vietnam, and yeah, so that's just kind of one.
So you're expressing about how he was actually been in the community for a while, and he wasn't actually seen that visible. He was a veteran. He'd been in Vietnam, but yet no one acknowledged him.
Yeah, so I wonder about those in situations in terms of having empathy circles and empathy circle training, you know, with the homeless, with that community. I just think of sort of strategies, you know, because it is, I do think that the empathy is the most healing aspect. I think Joelle was talking about that when you feel heard, you know, your stress hormones go down, your oxytocin goes up, and it creates more of a space for, you know, problem solving and healing.
So I'm hearing you talk about the fact that you're thinking about doing an outreach to the homeless people, because the process of actually going through the empathic listening releases oxytocin, which is sorry, I've lost it. I've been cat bombed.
Yeah, it's oxytocin. It's a hormone, I guess, that is stress reduction. The love hormone, sometimes called.
So oxytocin is sometimes called the love hormone. It's a stress reducing hormone.
Yeah, so somebody had reached out. There's a lot of homeless encampments in Oakland. So there's different community groups, you know, doing work there, you know, kind of supporting the communities there. And they'd asked about, oh, what about doing empathy circles, you know, but it's just a matter of time. You can't do everything. So it's quite time consuming, but I think the training that we're doing is we're setting up the training so it can be reproducible, so that, you know, anyone can take the training. And I actually had suggested, well, if the city would actually pay the homeless to take the training and become trainers, that would be a way of sort of starting a cycle of listening and community support.
So I'm hearing you speak about the city of Oakland and about the homeless issue there, and about how someone was saying that it would be good to take it out to the homeless people, but actually being time poor means that you think the best way of doing it would actually be to train some of them and get the city to actually pay for some of them to be trained, so they could then take this out themselves into their own community.
Yeah, so I think the training that we're doing here is really important for that, because we're setting up, you know, I think the training is really good for being reproducible. You know, anybody can learn it, anyone can become a trainee and a trainer, so it's highly reproducible. So I think, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm putting my energies.
So I'm hearing you speak about the scalability of the training, and that's where you're putting your energies, and that was your time.
Yeah, I feel fully heard.
Thank you. I think I've spoken to both Joel and Monika. Is that correct? Have I spoken to you, Monika?
You speak to me?
I said, have I spoken to you already? I was asking a question.
I spoke to you, I think.
So I haven't spoken to you. Okay, so I'll speak to you then. And then after this round, we'll then do a closing, because there's been a lot of emotion here. I think we should have a little closing in this circle before we go back into the main room. Is that all right with everyone?
Closing in 8 minutes. Okay, so I'm listening.
The reason I took the training was so that I could train others. I was working in a organization as a mentor to people with problems. As a recovered addict myself, my empathy with them was quite strong, but I had to be well aware of my own projections onto them, so that I didn't do that. I could hear them, not hear myself.
Mm-hmm. So you say, or here you say, you took the training to train others? and you was a mentor somewhere, and there you had an issue about, I can't say it back in your words, but it's about, there was something about listening to yourself or listening what say some confusion, let's say.
Yeah.
Projection.
I had to avoid my own projection. We call it shadow work. So you have to listen to your, am I saying this for me or for you? And I found the empathy was a very good tool for me learning the difference between me and what they were saying.
So it was a good tool for you to keep that clear. Am I saying it for me or am I saying it for them, and doing this shadow work?
Yeah, because it's so easy to project. At least I was so always putting myself into their situation rather than hearing their situation. And during the last year and a bit that I've been involved in the circling process, I developed the listening skill rather than the thinking skill.
So you say it's so easy to do that projection, and practicing these circles, it helped you to be more in the listening than in this thinking.
Yeah. At first, I struggled because I was trying to remember every word. And then I realized I don't have to remember the words, but I have to remember the meaning. So speaking from the heart, not the head.
Yeah, you realized it's about speaking from the heart and not the head, and therefore it's not about remembering every word, but the meaning.
Yeah, thank you. I feel fully heard. I'd like us all to take maybe 60 seconds or so, just to sit in silence and feel the emotion that's been going around the room and ground ourselves. Thank you. I'd just like to close by saying again, thank you. I'll pass on to Joel, if you'd just like to say a couple of words, and then pass on to someone else, please.
Yeah, I think it's mostly gratefulness and thankfulness. I think I'm delightfully surprised at how kind of generative this process is for me, like new ideas or new clarity. So thank you, everyone.
Monika, if you'd like to say a few words, please.
Yeah, I like when it becomes more slowly. I always enjoy that. It happened here, so thank you.
You're muted, Dean. Now you're muted again.
Kathy, would you like to say a few words to close the circle?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear anything you said before. Could you repeat what you were asking?
Your audio's kind of low, Dean. I don't know if your microphone, if you held it closer to your mouth.
Would you like to say a few words to close the circle?
Okay, sure. Thank you all for being mirroring and listening, people. And it's my first experience, and it was very positive. So thank you.
Edwin?
Yeah, I like so just what Kathy was sharing and the depth of, the care for another human being. It's very, kind of brings me into some more of my deeper feelings and feelings of grief and care and concern. So felt deeply touched by those topics, just all the richness of the human experience that comes up. It really gives a lot of meaning to life.
Thank you, Edwin, how long have we got till the others come back?
I think we have about 1 minute. I guess I could hit the close button. It'll close all rooms. So gives 60 seconds for everyone to pop in. And then we'll have another short debrief too from the full group.
Thank you, Edwin.
So curious about the training. Is anyone interested in taking the training? Joel, great. Oh, Kathy, is this time slot work for you? There we go. Everybody's waiting for the, there we go. For the last minute, must have been a good discussion because everybody's waiting for the very last minute to return. So welcome back. So we just want to quickly move, hear from each person, sort of a short debrief. So I put into the chat, take 30 seconds to share, why do you feel it's important to spread the empathy circle practice in Extinction Rebellion? Or you can talk about anything that's alive for you. Just take 60 seconds. Let's see, start with Graham.
Yes, just kind of harvesting my impression of what I remember from the group, and that is that there's this chasm or chasm that lies between empathy and reflecting on a need and an urgency, and actually converting that energy into action. And so that's the message I'm left with. It was a valuable meeting though, but thank you.
Okay, would you be willing to call on people?
Yes, indeed.
Just for effective
Fine.
efficiency.
So Laura, would you like to sort of give your harvest from the meeting? You're muted, Laura.
I do apologize. So I harvest that people are feeling similar frustrations to me about translating feelings into action, and also that there are good things going on, but that there's huge amounts to do. And basically all the things that I've been feeling for a very long time have been echoed in small ways by the group. And thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Laura. And Larry, would you?
Oh,
yes, Laura, carry on, speak.
I thought I was calling the next person, but I'm not.
Okay. Thank you anyway, Laura. Larry, would you like to speak for 30 seconds?
Well, I really enjoyed our circle. It's just beyond words, the way the circle unfolded and blossomed into this beautiful experience of how empathy is the missing link in human communication and has been missing throughout human history. And we keep overlooking that. And if we miss having empathy, it will almost guaranteed lead to a miscommunication that, as we've seen, unfolds in war, even nuclear war. So it's fundamental to our survival as humans to begin practicing this in our own lives and in everyone's lives. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. And Julia in Fairborn, would you like to contribute?
Yes. This isn't from our empathy circle. It's just something that came to me just now after it. And it was a really good, fluid, really good empathy circle. It reminded me of one of my best friends saying to me, Julia, they just don't understand you. They haven't taken the time to listen to you. And we're talking about specific antisocial behavior towards me and bullying and everything. So, yeah, I think, well, if they don't want to hear me, they don't want to hear me. They'd rather just point the finger and spear arrowheads at me. But it doesn't mean I have to give up, because hopefully Zoom will continue to go on, because otherwise I'll just be left here surrounded by snakes. I don't want to be venomous snakes. But yeah, I mean, I am on the phone, obviously, and that's, to me, the next best thing is to get on the phone and talk to somebody rather than just do it by text. I think that's very impersonal. So I'll finish there.
Thank you, Julia. And Paul, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. The lovely circle we had, and the underlying theme was just about it just being such a fundamental, and we really lived the experience of really hearing each other properly, and you know, this whole idea that you can't really understand somebody until you've walked around in their shoes for a bit, and it's a real honor to do that, actually.
Thank you, Paul. And Michelle from Oregon.
Yeah, I kind of echo what Paul was saying about having the opportunity to walk in the shoes of others. I think that that is really powerful, and it just opens the doors and unshutters the windows of my mind when I get the opportunity to hear the perspectives of others. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And Anne, would you like to speak?
It was just an honor to hear people thinking and sharing how they see this being a powerful tool, and how they're thinking and the areas that they want to apply it to. It was really impressive. And I particularly liked hearing the idea of making sure that at the point where people are kind of getting close to being able to face the issue of the climate ecological emergency, ensuring that at that point there's a space where they can be heard. And to me, that's like ensuring the point that will empower people to take action effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And Sarah, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, good. Yes, lots of thoughts about this. We kept coming back to this idea of empathy as the missing link in making human beings come together in a more satisfactory way. And I'm sort of thinking as well, I like the idea that that when you really stand in another's shoes, your own fixed views can sort of dissolve, and you enter a more fluid state, which makes it more possible to come together rather than having one position and then another position, you know. And I was reflecting on that, how crucial that is to build resilience in our groups, whether they be community groups or XR groups, but anyway, the potential is there to help XR groups become more resilient because of what we have to face, what is coming, you know, that we will have this tool to help us function fully as a cohesive group. You need skills, don't you? And this is a key skill. So I don't know how to put that in writing because I'm only on an iPad and I don't know how to put it in, Edwin. But that was my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And Rick, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I really appreciated the opportunity to participate, and the Empathy Circle method really did help me see the different ways that each individual was dealing with and processing and experiencing this rather large topic. So it's good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And Monika, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'm a bit tired, honestly. So yeah, I enjoy it always to be with people who are sharing in that respectful way. I think it should be part of every day, like an everyday practice. Yeah. And what's interesting for me, so these 5-minute slots it's kind of a speed dating feeling for me. But it was interesting then that it made around that again, and yeah, interesting. I liked it. Thank you.
Thank you, Monika. Kathy Muller, would you like to speak?
Yes, I really enjoyed our group, and I enjoyed hearing everyone's reflections of each other. And it's my first time, so it was tricky at first, but I really got into it, and I feel that I want to pursue it.
Thank you, Kathy. And Joelle?
I love the process. I feel like empathy everywhere is amazing, and that the Empathy Circle is such a power-packed healing mode on so many different levels. And we talked about anti-racism and grief over the homeless people around us struggling, and XR. And I feel like there's just so many ways that this can be healing to help us move forward. Like it's tangibly, actively healing our brains to engage in this process. And so I'm grateful.
Thank you, Joelle. And Dean, would you like to speak?
In our circle, we talked about how empathy transcends language. Not just the language of our own cultures, but the language across cultures. So it allows people to be heard who would not necessarily listen to each other. And it allows emotion to come across in ways that hadn't come across before, because listening in silence is an unnatural practice for most people. But once it's developed, you can actually hear others rather than just hearing yourself. So, yes, it was a very special circle today.
Thank you, Dean. And Edwin, would you like to summarize?
Yeah, so I was trying to look at the question here about why it's important in XR. So it came up that the empathy circles would be helpful for supporters, XR supporters community to connect and have constructive dialogues. And that was in comparison to being in a lot of political discussions or social groups where it's dysfunctional, hurtful, painful dialogues, about social issues. And, you need some way of having it be constructive. And so I really think that, one of the big benefits is to use the empathy circle in XR just for having more constructive dialogues. And also, if you have these dialogues to begin with, and then you start going into just, regular dialogue, and then when things break down, you can go back to the empathy circle. So it's always a fallback position, like, oh, there's a conflict, what do? We go back to the empathy circle to kind of work it out. So you've got that sort of foundation. Yeah, so Was I the last person, Graham, or was?
Yes, indeed. It's
Okay.
over to you now, Edwin. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we just get a straw poll, like who would like to take the training? We're just trying to see how many people we have. 1, 2, oh, take it, great. Okay, so we're going to be doing 1 or 2 more of these empathy cafes here in this time slot, and there's a link to the sign up for the training. And as soon as we get like 20, 21 people, then we'll kind of schedule it. We'll have 1 or 2 more of these. So what you can do in the meantime, just so we have your contact info, if you can click on that link in the chat window, give you a chance to open that. Is everybody seeing it? So that's just a feedback form for this session. You can go, if everybody types in your email just right now, just type in your email. Everybody got that? Anybody need a minute to do that? And then, so we'll leave you with that form to fill out, and add your name, any sort of feedback, and then we will have your contact info so we can reach out to you, as well as check the website, the training website, and all the information on how to sign up is there. And if you have any questions, send an email. Anne or Dean, any final comments as trainers?
Yeah, I just think when we were in our circle, I think we weren't really engaged in putting stuff in the Google form that you've created. So if people would like to add their thoughts into there, that would be great on the topic.
Yeah, the topic being, why would this be helpful in XR? So Dean, anything?
I'd just like to say it would be helpful in XR because in teams, when you start a new team, it would be helpful to do some empathic reflection with each other, because it would allow you to develop a depth of understanding that would then prevent conflicts from arising and traumas arising within circles in the self-organizing systems.
So a real benefit there for team building. Okay, then with that, we'll do our jazz hands, sort of a goodbye. And if the facilitators would stay back, we'll do a debrief and see you next week, I hope, or in
Thanks,
any
everybody.
of the other cafes. Good to see you all.
Thanks for
Good to
coming,
see you,
everybody.
Paul.
Hi,
Great
guys.
to have you here.
Bye-bye.
Can I
Bye-bye.
just ask Sarah if she's still there a question? I put something in the chat for her. Did you get it? You're muted.
I'm not sure. Let me just look.
Can you save the chat?
No, I don't know how to. So I'm on an iPad and I don't know how to save it.
Can you write your email and I'll send you the chat?
I have got the chat here. What
Okay.
was the message?
Oh,
The recording, Edward.
yeah,
Oh, right.
really.